Live from the RamCave, I'm Joe Terosian, and this is RamView, the August 15th, 2022 edition. I'm Joe Terosian, as I've already said. I'm always repeating that. But it's really good to be back here talking Ram football right after a Ram game. So we started this after the Super Bowl. So I picked a real opportune time, right? So we started doing RamView after the Super Bowl, or I think it was just before the Super Bowl, maybe someplace in there, and now we're back talking actual game stuff. And so first full weekend of NFL football, and so really excited about that. Excited about seeing the injuries and the trades and the releases and all those things. I got to be honest, even when I was a kid, my favorite thing when August hit and watching NFL preseason games, all 6 of them, right, was we'd always race to the newspaper the next day and looked at the transactions, and you were just stunned on who got released because there was no 24-hour news cycle in those days. There was no Twitter, no Facebook, no ESPN, no place to go. You literally had to wait for the Times to produce its sports section, and you got information from the Times, but you got the best sports writing from the Herald Examiner. There, I said it. I've dated myself. All right, so before we get into the Rams, talking about some stuff, just looking around the league a little bit, and the NFC West. I thought it was interesting that Rodney Hudson, the starting center for the Arizona Cardinals, he's nursing a knee. And it's nothing serious, but he's nursing a knee. He's in his 30s, and he was close to retirement. That's not a good place to be. Sorry. And then the 2 Drakes from USC. Drake London for the Falcons tweaked his knee after making a catch this weekend. And Drake Jackson got a stinger for the 49ers. And so I thought that was kind of just something to keep an eye on. And you saw Trey Lance play for the 49ers, and yeah, I think Trey Lance could be something. I just don't think he's going to be much those first 6 weeks. And the Rams could get their games out of the way with the 49ers before Trey Lance develops into something. And so I'd like to see that. I have no faith in the Cardinals. And also, if you're battling your quarterbacks between Drew Lock and Geno Smith, you're playing for next year. So not really too worried about the Seahawks. Now, could all these teams sneak up and beat the Rams? Of course they could. But it really bodes well is that the Rams need to win those 6 games in the division because their non-division schedule is brutal. And you got to accept the fact the Rams could lose 5 to 6 games this year and still be an elite team. And such. So Jordan Love didn't look too great for the Packers, although I think one of those picks, or even both those 2 of his 3 picks, really you can't really pin those on him. The Browns are a mess. The Cowboys, delightfully, what was that, 19,000 penalties they had called on them? That's cool too. But enough about that. Let's talk about the Rams. And I am Joe Terosian, and I do RamView. I've posted on my website, joeterosian.com, from the RamCave, and you can check that out with some pictures from Saturday night's game against the Chargers. You can check those things out there, Joe Terosian. I'm on Twitter at JoeT13B, and also at Instagram. And you can read my books. I am a published author. I am on Amazon. You can read my books there, as well as I am a pastor of a small church in Burbank, and you can join me there. So commercials out of the way. I really enjoyed watching Bryce Perkins play for 4 quarters. I like Bryce Perkins. I've honked for Bryce Perkins. I think Bryce Perkins has more upside than John Wolford, but I like Bryce Perkins more than John Wolford, but Sean McVay doesn't. And that's the part where it's just a little bit hard here, is that I thought Bryce Perkins looked pretty good. He made plays, right? But he also stayed in the pocket. I know he didn't make a lot of, 17 out of 10, 10 out of 17, not a lot of big yards. He had the one big play to McCutcheon, 2 big plays to McCutcheon. But the one that was late in the game, in the second half, the one where he stayed in the pocket, took the hit, delivered the ball, put it in a place where McCutcheon could grab it for his second touchdown, I thought was a great throw. And I like Bryce Perkins, but Sean McVay likes John Wolford better. But my issue is that Wolford needs to play some preseason snaps. The guy hasn't played a meaningful game since the end of the 2020 season. Yeah, he started the playoff game in Seattle, but he got hurt. And so he started, week 17 in 2020? Guided the Rams to a very carefully crafted victory over the Cardinals to get into the playoffs. And then he was out. And that's the last meaningful game he played. And he didn't look good when he jumped in last year. Did he look good to you last year? He didn't look good to me. So I'm a little curious that I at least give him some snaps. If he's your number 2, and it's obvious he is, the Rams made no other move in the offseason, and he's not playing right now. And if he's not going to play, then that basically tells you the Rams have locked him up at number 2. And I just, I want to see more snaps out of Wolford. I want my confidence restored in Wolford, and we're going to have to just take McVay's word on it. So when I direct an NFL franchise to the Super Bowl, I got to tell you, right then, after I do that, I'm going to be all over McVay's butt. Or if the wolf flames out, I'm going to make my thoughts clear to McVay and McSnead and all those guys that Bryce Perkins needs more time. The wolf needs reps. I want to see him. Am I wrong on this, right? He needs some game time reps. Always interesting to see who's in the booth for the preseason game last few years. It's been Andrew Siciliano, Mina Kimes, and Aqib Talib. This year it's Siciliano and Mina Kimes and Andrew Whitworth. And it's not bad. I've heard worse, right? Anything's better than turning on a preseason game. The game I've been waiting 6 months to watch a good NFL football game or just an NFL game. And then you get Beth Mowins or Jim Nance. And the next thing you know, you need some kind of vaccine to break that, because Mowins and Nance are just unbearable. That'll make me turn off a game. But Siciliano is okay. I don't have a problem listening to Andrew Siciliano call Ram games. I do. There is one thing that I don't like about Siciliano is that, and especially with the Rams being a team, which all the teams are going this route now, is he doesn't take the time or do a very good job setting the line or the line of scrimmage before a snap, his pre-snap stuff. I know that sounds like quarterback talk, but his pre-snap, I want to know who's in the game, who's in the backfield, who's on the line of scrimmage before the ball is snapped and before the play is made. I think that just makes it better for the listener. He is there at the stadium. He's got his 2 deep. He's, up at a higher perch. He should let us know who's in the game. And usually we're not finding out until after the ball is snapped, the camera moves, or a play is made. And, you call that on my part, being an older guy, Bob Starr hangover. Bob Starr was the old Rams play-by-play guy through most of the 80s and 90s. And he was revered for that. One of the things Bob Starr did is he really painted a picture to let you see on the radio who's in the game. And you need that on television when it's preseason and the starters aren't playing. So that's my only beef with Siciliano. Mina Kimes, outside of working for ESPN, she doesn't have any problems. I'm not a big Mina Kimes person, but I'm not an anti-Mina Kimes person. And she didn't do much of anything this Saturday night. Now, in previous years, she has contributed to the broadcast. You'd hear her work things in, and I thought we're pretty good. She's not a turn off. You don't turn off the TV when you hear Mina Kimes. But I thought maybe because she was working with Andrew Whitworth for the first time, and they were just trying to get in sync. I didn't think she contributed anything beyond the obvious, good catch, nice play, a couple of basic things. And I think she's capable of more than that. But I thought she really didn't deliver anything on Saturday night. And then regarding Whitworth was cool. When he spoke, you felt like you were learning stuff. And that's what you want from a color commentator, right? You want to feel like you're learning something. I know that's what I try to do because I'm not, on the field. I'm not in the booth. I want to learn something and kind of pick up what they're saying and what they're not saying about certain players. So let's come up to the 10-minute mark, talk about some of the positives. Yeah, I thought Perkins' play was solid. I loved seeing him run the offense. And this is something Mina Kimes did say, that the Rams were running a lot of offense with Perkins with empty sets. That means no running backs in the backfield, which is something Stafford loves to do. And so it was good to see him running an offense that Stafford runs, which means it makes it easier for someone like him or possibly Wolford to step into those situations if Stafford has to go out for a while. Inside the red zone, though, inside the 10, I don't like seeing empty sets. I like to have the defense thinking about something. But when I win that Super Bowl, I'm really going to let Sean McVay know about that. Last ad regarding Perkins' play. Should the Wolf, John Wolford, be hearing footsteps? I think he should be hearing footsteps. Is the Wolf hearing footsteps? Absolutely not. He didn't play. He's ingrained as the number 2. And then that brings us to Lance McCutcheon. And everyone's a Lance McCutcheon fan and right now. But I thought it was kind of interesting. The Rams signed McCutcheon after the draft. And, of course, the name McCutcheon is going to get a buzz for any kind of Ram fan, right? And we know there's no relation there and everything. But I think people are going to forget is that about a week after the Rams signed him as a undrafted free agent, they released him. And they brought him back. It's one of those roster adjustment things. He was an undrafted free agent. Rams released him for a day or two, and then they brought him back. And after Saturday's performance, obviously, he's a Nelson Spruce Award candidate. Nelson Spruce being the phenom of 2016, who never played in the NFL, but had a great couple of preseasons or a great one preseason with the Rams in 2016. I always call it the Nelson Spruce Award. There's always somebody. Jacob Harris was the Nelson Spruce guy last year. They don't have to do anything during the regular season, but they make a name for themselves in the preseason. And Lance McCutcheon is the candidate there. But I also think Lance McCutcheon has entered the conversation in regards to the wide receiver room. Now, some minor adjustments here. You could read the wide receiver room this way. Obviously, Cooper Kupp, Allen Robinson, and even though he's hurt right now, Van Jefferson. According to the recent depth chart that was released, Ben Skoranek, Tutu Atwell, and then you'd go Jacob Harris. But now I think you need to be looking at Lance McCutcheon. And that's because Jacob Harris is hurt again. And so after Saturday's performance, I don't think McCutcheon has passed Skoranek, Atwell, Robinson, or Kupp or Jefferson, but I think he's moved past Jacob Harris. And Jacob Harris needs to get healthy and needs to get back to making plays, because are you going to keep two guys like Jacob Harris and Lance McCutcheon? And because you got two guys like Jacob Harris and Lance McCutcheon, it also tells me Warren Jackson. Now, Warren Jackson is somebody that was a undrafted free agent the Rams signed. He was released by the Broncos last year. He's the big receiver. And I saw some clips of him, and I was talking about him a little bit this spring. He went on the PUP list. They just activated him. But with Jacob Harris still on the roster, McCutcheon shining, that big, lanky receiver to make plays down by the goal line, I think Warren Jackson's time in L.A. is just about done with Tuesday's cuts looming. So he could be one guy that you would be thinking about. The offensive line, of course, none of the starters played. Alaric Jackson, left tackle, Tremaine Ankrum at left guard, Jeremiah Colon at center, Logan Bruss at right guard, and Bobby Evans at right tackle, which was really interesting because after not appearing on the depth chart at all, it was interesting to see Evans get the start at right tackle. And good, he needs the reps, but I think he's in a bad spot. He's in the last year of his contract, and he hasn't really delivered or developed into anything near what the Rams thought they were getting when he was drafted out of Oklahoma. Also interesting about that depth chart sidebar there, in the adjustment, Terrell Lewis is no longer number 3 in the depth chart. Terrell Lewis is number 2. That's edge. We're talking about offensive line. But I think Bobby Evans being omitted from the depth chart now in retrospect probably was just an oversight. But if he was any good, I don't think he'd be given an oversight. In the second half, Chandler Brewer came in at guard. A.J. Akuri came in at right tackle. And Jack Snyder, an undrafted free agent who I believe signed as a tackle, closed the game at center. And there were moments the line looked okay, good, and a lot of moments they didn't. A.J. Rose at running back made them look good. A.J. Rose really created something from nothing. And Jake Funk actually showed he's competent with the ball in his hands, catching and running. But while Rose made some plays that made the offensive line look good, Jake Funk needs the offensive line to block for him, and they didn't, okay? To break him down by player, Logan Bruss, right? he got trucked early on, right? And I went to the PFF grading, the Pro Football Focus grading system, and yeah, he graded out real poor in pass protection and so-so and run blocking. Bobby Evans graded out poorly in pass and in run, and he was very average in run. He played 30 snaps. Tremaine Ancrum graded average in pass and good in run. He probably had the best night for the Rams because he moved from left guard out to tackle in the second half, and he showed some versatility, and he didn't suck. Alaric Jackson graded poor in pass and a little above average in the run. Jeremiah Colon played 45 snaps the entire first half, most of the second at center, and he graded out well in blocking and average in pass. So for the Rams last night, he actually had a good night. AJ Akuri, he's the kid out of Michigan State, late round draft pick. He was averaging in the run and poor in pass. And Chandler Brewer, who's an interesting one, he only played 35 snaps in the second half, and he was graded out as good in both run and pass. And Chandler Brewer really caught my eye because he's been around for a while. I didn't know how long he'd been around. The Rams signed Chandler Brewer as an undrafted free agent in 2019 out of Middle Tennessee. And he appeared 7 games that year, which I'd largely forgotten. But I went back and see how long had he been with the Rams. He opted out COVID year. He was back last year. He's 6'6", 320. 6'6", 320. And the Rams have been developing him for a number of years. And again, he's somebody that you keep your eye on in terms of Rams developing people, from Brian Allen at center, now Coleman Shelton at right guard. The Rams do this. They developed Austin Blythe. They got clicks out of him. They developed Austin Corbett after he washed out, was it in Cleveland or Indianapolis? I think he was in Cleveland that Corbett washed out as a second-round pick. And the Rams got great clicks out of him, and he got a new contract and moved on. The Rams do develop people, and maybe it's not this year, but Chandler Brewer is kind of interesting to keep an eye on. And Jack Snyder, 16 snaps at center. I think I said he was listed as a tackle. He was okay in run blocking, and they had a 0 grade in pass. But is he a Tuesday casualty? He might be a Tuesday casualty. Around the rest of the team, who looked good, and these were specific plays. I just made these notes as the game went on. Did you see Darian Kendrick? I thought in coverage and tackling, he looked solid. He looked really comfortable. I think the Rams got something special in him. Daniel Hardy got the sack, got a pressure early on. But as the game wore on, now he only played 33 snaps, but as the game wore on, he didn't do anything. He didn't get much pressure. And I would have thought as he was in the game late against third team undrafted free agents like himself, I would have thought that he would have made more of an impact on Easton Stick late there in the fourth quarter. But I was just wondering, Daniel Hardy look a little gassed to you down the stretch? I thought he looked a little gassed. And maybe it's the excitement of his first NFL game, but I thought he did. Robert Rochelle, I like his size. I like his length. He's just somebody you like to see back there. Now, there was some debate. I did ask some coaches, what did you think of the Chargers' first touchdown? Was that on Rochelle or was that on the safety? The coaches, by and large, said not knowing for sure, but from the visual, it looked like it was on the safety. But we'll see. I do like Robert Rochelle. And then Bobby Brown III, actually, wow. Hello, Bobby Brown III. Got a sack. Looked good, looked aggressive, and then he got hurt, right? Now, he's already out with performance-enhancing drugs for PEDs for 6 weeks. His leg got rolled up on, ankle. Last I heard, news was optimistic, though. It's not a significant injury. Daniel Isom, I actually heard another podcast talk about keeping an eye on Daniel Isom, and Isom made the play at the end of the game that sealed it with the kind of pick fumble recovery there. I don't think they're going to label it as a pick because the ball never hit the ground. And good for Isom. But I don't know. Do you see room for Isom on this roster beyond maybe special teams, practice squad player? And then speaking of that, Grant Haley. Grant Haley was aggressive, tackled well, played a lot of snaps. But at best, he's a really good special teams player, and I don't think he's a coverage guy at all. How do we know he's not a coverage guy? One, what reps did he get? The Rams pulled in Kareem Orr last year, right? They pulled in Kareem Orr to play that game in Arizona. They used Dante Deon last year, and Haley's been around for a little bit. I think Haley's aggressive. I think, again, he's a good tackler. He's a great special teams player, but he's not a coverage guy. Ernest Brown IV, it was great to see him get on the field, get a sack. He played 39 snaps. He was almost the invisible dude, but it was good to see him play. And Jake Hummel had 15-8 snaps, 10 tackles. And that was interesting because he played the off-ball linebacker with Jake Gervais, and there was no Christian Rosebloom last night. And I don't know if they're saving Christian Rosebloom or what, because Traven Howard's out, and he's behind Ernest Jones and Bobby Wags. But we'll see. But I thought those things were interesting to see. A lot of people talked about Hummel when the Rams signed him, and he got the most snaps on defense. In terms of the negative, as we hit the 20-minute mark, man, it's amazing how fast the time flies when you're talking about the games instead of speculation. That coverage with Robert Rochelle, the blown coverage on the Chargers' first touchdown, the coaches I spoke to, my eyes told me, because I'm a Terrell Burgess fan, that blown coverage, the coaches I spoke to, they put that on Burgess. And the fact that Burgess was playing now in his third year, passed by Nick Scott, Jordan Fuller, and Taylor Rapp, doesn't bode well for Burgess. I don't think he's going to get cut on Tuesday, but the Rams drafted Quentin Lake and Russ Yeast. They got guys, and so they got depth, and so it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how his preseason finishes. Benton Whitley started at the edge. He was okay. He was okay. I noticed on the game's first series he lost contain as the Chargers got outside on him. Kobe Durant, while they're starting to really like this guy, did you see the tackle that he missed in coverage? There was a reception, and then he missed the tackle, and it led to a large gain for the Chargers. I mean, it's not a deal breaker, right? Same thing happened to Cesar Dancy Williams, but Rams aren't as invested in Dancy Williams as they are in Kobe Durant, and Dancy Williams could be a guy on Tuesday that meets the turf. And so those were some of the things we wanted to get out and talk about after the first game. Happy birthday to Fred Strickland today, who turns 55. If you remember Fred Strickland, he was the centerpiece of that Eagle defense the Rams were trying to put out there in the late 80s. The Rams drafted him out of Purdue, second round, 47 overall, 1988. He was one of the picks acquired in the Dickerson trade. Of the 6 picks the Rams acquired, 8 players, 6 picks, and of the draft picks, Strickland might have had the best career. He played 12 years, 5 with the Rams, a year with the Vikings, a couple years with the Packers, 3 with the Cowboys. He was a starter most of those times, and then he had a cup of coffee with the Redskins in 99. So he turns 55 today. And the late Mike Henry, who you might not remember as a Ram, but you might recognize him. He played in a lot of John Wayne movies. He was in the Green Berets. He was in I think one of the Burt Reynolds movies. That's the stupid movie that he's driving the car. Oh, that's all of Burt Reynolds movies, right? And Mike Henry played a cop and stuff. But Mike Henry had a long career in Hollywood, but he played 6 years in the NFL, went to Bell High School in LA and played at USC and was drafted by the Steelers in the 9th round. He had a 6-year NFL career, 3 with the Steelers, and he started for the Rams for most of 3 years. And he would have been 86 today, but he passed away about a year and a half ago at the age of 84. So we're just remembering Mike Henry. But here was the interesting thing, is that both Strickland and Henry, who celebrate the same birthday, wore number 53 while playing for the Rams. How's that? Is that pretty interesting or what? I thought that was pretty interesting. And speaking of numbers, excuse me. Speaking of numbers, I also thought it was kind of interesting as we come up to the 25-minute mark, is that for 60 years, no one wore Elroy Crazy Leg Hirsch's number. Now, he retired, 57, 56. There was a guy that wore it briefly, but I think once Crazy Legs went into the Hall, the Rams retired it. And for 60 years, nobody wore it. Von Miller shows up, and they give Von Miller number 40. Now, I'm assuming they probably spoke to some family, and there was a good deal there. And, hey, it's Von Miller. as a fellow Hall of Famer. I'm okay with that. But I was watching, was it Jiren McVeigh, another candidate who could be cut on Tuesday, and he's wearing number 40. And it's like, whoa, is number 40 just up for grabs? Is 74 and 85 and number 7 going to be up for grabs now for the Rams? They need to clean this up a little bit, right? You need to clean it up. That's bad mojo. You got to protect your Hall of Famers. And so I just wanted to get that out there. All right. So, wow, we covered a lot of ground. It was really fun to watch the game. It was really fun to talk Rams football. And we're going to just build on that as we go forward. The reason I'm using my Christmas coffee mug is that my next book is coming out in a couple months. It's a Christmas story. It's not based on football, but it's a Christmas story. And so it's not Christmas story. It's just it's a book about Christmas. Anyway, so I grabbed that mug today. So, okay. Thank you for clicking on. Remind you to follow us. We're also on iHeartRadio and Spotify, and you can follow us there. And of course, right here on YouTube, hit click and like. If you don't like us, hit like twice and get that notification as we build our footprint here. All right, folks. Thank you so much for clicking on. This is RamView, and I'm Joe Tarosian, and we will be back. Also, there's a RamCave column posted at joetarosian.com. Okay, folks. God bless. Take care. We'll talk to you soon.